Right. Thank you very much for those rounds of introduction. I think we assembled here an august gathering of speakers, looking at the E2-wheeler and the E3-wheeler industry. Of course, these two segments have been at the forefront of electrification, especially in today's times when we talk about rising urban air pollution, with India unfortunately having some of the most polluted cities in the world. We see that the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler segment are really at the forefront of the electrification wave, and therefore what better than to have this galaxy of leaders today to talk about how this segment is today and how it's going to be shaping up in the near future. So to kickstart today's discussion, I'll go over to Mr. Uday Narang, CEO, Omega Seiki Mobility. We've seen Omega Seiki has been extremely vocal about, localizing EV components and building a robust domestic value chain. We've also seen, apart from that, you've also built in India and built in India also for the world. As we see, you are also selling your vehicles, your products, which are doing very well in many of the other countries as well. But here is one thing that we see: we still rely a lot on imported battery components, semiconductors, and what are some of the biggest hurdles that you see in developing a resilient domestic EV value chain, and how India can accelerate this indigenization, which will be very critical if we have to really scale up this sector within the country. Your views, please.
Yeah, first of all, great to be at TWF, and a very good morning. Great to see early in the morning everybody's here. Really, one thing I do want to say is, 31 of the most polluted cities are in this country, and I think we owe it to the future generations. We do owe it to our future, our kids, our parents, to build a better, cleaner, greener India. But, to coming back to, we've been in this journey for quite some time. We've seen a lot of players come and go, but one thing has been clear. What I really am proud of to see is, the big boys and girls have all joined the party. And, when Bajaj or Mahindra and Tata are leading, and many, many others, please, it's not that I'm leaving anybody behind. I think it tells you that, people have now realized that this is a market, this is an industry that is going to be long-term players. 7 years ago, it wasn't like this. We had such a supply chain was such a problem, right? Today, one of the problems I'm facing is, and then I think you'll say, cells are all coming either from China or they're coming from Korea, but really majority, let's talk bigger numbers, are coming from China, right? The problem today is indigenization of cells in this country. The cost has come down to such, the cells have become a commodity, right? So I think to be able to do mass scale cell production, I'm sure Amaraja with Goshen, Tata, there will be some, but I don't think, in my personal opinion, India is the most price sensitive market in the world. And to build cell plants here, I don't think you're going to get the IRR. Right, but I think the BMSs, motors, controllers, everything is being actually now, the ecosystem is being built here. I think if you look at the total cost ownership, the real problem was, and I think that's where two-wheelers and three-wheelers have really taken a lead, is the TCO model is now working. If I can give you a vehicle that is doing 300 kilometers on a single charge in a three-wheeler, which, is more than needed, if you need 6,000 or 7,000 kilometers in a passenger or cargo, and in two-wheelers also you're getting 150, 200, I think the total cost ownership model works. All right, I think that is, in India, unfortunately, we all might say we care about the environment, but honestly, what we care about is, meri jeb mein kya bacha? How do I actually save money? So I think we are moving towards, there's a lot of work that's been done in this direction. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done. I think what we need to be open towards is, can we do more alliances, whether it's with, international players, whether we can bring it. But one thing I really want to say, guys and girls, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. Anybody who's here to make a round A, B, C, D, I'm thinking you're definitely not even going to make it to C, and you're going to be gone. Please look for the long term, build a business for long term, invest for long term. You might be a little bit slower, But I think that coming back to, there is a whole lot of work. Difficulties we face, we face every day, right? Supply chain has been, but we have come a long, long way from pricing to the number of players. You see all the big players now, in tier one players now, they want to be in the EV, whether it's Mando, Motherson Sumi, whether it's Minda Group, everybody's coming into this game, which for me is a big development. I mean, they say Rome wasn't built in one day. In India, we want to build Romes every day. I know our patience is limited. But let's be honest, how many years has it been on EV? I mean, BYD yesterday, coming up with charging infra, 5-minute fast charging for 500 kilometers, right? That'll give you the time you're in a fuel station. But, so technology is moving very fast. I don't have a problem aligning forces where India can do better, right? I think we don't need to invent the wheel on everything. I want more and more green plates in this country. I want more, not just tier 1, 2, but tier 2, 3, 4 cities. I also want an environment where, I'll be very serious, I want the government to have a straight policy, whether we're going to do something or not do something. The government is very clear that don't depend on us on subsidies. We'll do what we will do, and I think they've done what they have done. This is not the United States or Europe or China, where the government will give unlimited amounts of money. I think we've got to understand that environment. We've got to work in partnerships, and I'll tell you one thing finally. We've got to work, we all say Bharat Mata Ki Jai. If we're not going to complete and not care about our Mother Earth, then I think we're not going to care about anything. I think that's my say. I think clearly there will be difficulties, but I think again and again, wait in what we have done in 7 years and what we can see in the next 10 years. And I think it's going to be a mixture of the big boys, and I hope the startups, they have a long-term vision and they build a long-term vision. And I think that's what's happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Uday, for those very candid views, especially on how you, put it very succinctly, and we don't need to do everything ourselves, and how both the big boys and the startups will have a key role to play, including looking at the long term for that. Yeah, thank you very much. Going across to you, Siddharth, we see that you've done a lot of work on making EVs more affordable and accessible, particularly for the rural and the semi-urban markets, right? And you identified them as key opportunity areas for E2-wheelers, whereas, initially all of this was happening within the big cities. So what specific design and performance features have you looked at so as to make EVs more suitable for, hitherto, I would say, relatively less tapped markets that you're looking at?
Thank you for the question, and good morning, everyone. If you're looking at the current trends, you see a lot of EV adoption happening. But if you look closely, you see a lot of action happening mostly in the urban areas, which is logical because, urban areas have infrastructure benefits that rural areas don't. But I see a lot of untapped potential in the rural and suburban markets. And we at Greenway are launching an electric bike, which is targeted specifically for the rural and suburban audience. And so we have been working on this design for 1.5 years now. And the 3 core elements that our primary focus was on, first was ruggedness, second was modularity, and third was making it cost effective. So when you talk about ruggedness, the biggest challenge right now is making EVs as reliable as an ICE engine vehicle. You see electric vehicles breaking down very frequently, and in majority of the cases, the failure component is an electrical component. And the biggest enemy of the electrical component is water. So, our first priority was to package the vehicle in such a way that it has minimal water exposure, even if you're driving in flooded areas. The second thing that we are doing is to create a very robust chassis. We're testing it very rigorously, and on top of that we are giving a full metal body to add to the strength. The second thing that we are focusing on is modularity. So why, what, like if you look at the target audience, the rural market or the suburban market, the families usually have one vehicle and all the members use it. So you need a vehicle which can, which can be used by both men, women, which can be used for commute, which can be used for business purpose. So we have designed exactly that, like the bike we have made is equally comfortable for someone wearing a sari or a dhoti as it is for somebody wearing pants and suits. Additionally, like the ergonomics, the height of the vehicle, it's all customizable. So somebody who is maybe 4 feet 10 inches, like they can drive it equally comfortably as somebody who is 6'5", Same way, like to push it further, we have even kept our seats removable, and we have given attachments that you can easily plug into the vehicle, like a hot box or a cold box or a crate or a child seat. So it's a very modular vehicle, a very multi-purpose vehicle that we are designing. And the third point, it's just cost effective. If you're targeting the mass market, it has to be a value for money product. And we cannot reduce the cost by compromising on the quality. So like at Greenway, we are trying to make technological advances to reduce the upfront price of the vehicle. Like one of the few that technology that we are working with is introducing, like integrating the multi-speed transmission in the bike. And that helps reduce the battery size, motor size, and overall cost of the vehicle.
All right. Thank you very much, Siddharth, for talking about the specifications, and probably you have a very intensive house of quality during your QFT to be able to fit in all the requirements that you were talking about. Going across to you, Rajat, I think you've two things that I wanted to ask you. One is around, I think you brought best of both the worlds with a two-wheeler and three-wheeler coming into one. So, what sort of use cases do you see for that vehicle would be one thing that I would like to understand from you. Second, I think also just taking a cue from what Siddharth was saying, we see that there are still some skepticism about EV performance out there. And, when, say, a big company like yours enters into this, what are, some of the things that you see industry taking to be doing in order to be able to address these concerns and, creating the kind of comfort that customers have with ICE vehicles with regard to performance, etc., coming even with the electrified versions.
Thanks for your query, and first of all, thank you to the TWF and giving the opportunity to represent my organization here. Before we talk about what Surge is offering, and I'd like to come to the query you asked the second regarding the skepticism. So first we have to talk about the technology. Any new technology, we will all acknowledge here in this room that EV is a relatively new technology. For any new technology to propagate, or you can say capture the mass market, I believe it should first do the existing technology pointers right and give an additional benefit over the existing technology. Then only you can see that propagation happening, that mass adoption happening. Currently, since you rightly mentioned, the ICE vehicles are basically, they have been optimized over decades, and the kind of efficiency, the energy density the gasoline vehicles offer is very high compared to what the battery technology offers, which eventually translates into customer comfort in terms of range anxiety, in terms of refueling, and also the infrastructure. The biggest concern which customer feels is towards the quick refueling, or which somehow feeds into the bigger problem, that is the range anxiety. So although there are many things which are happening in the industry which are addressing to these problems, still you are not able to create the replica of that thing right now. We are slowly getting there, but the way we will propagate, the same will be the way how the adoption curve will move. We are already into the early adopters phase of the traditional curve of new technology adoption. The charging time earlier, I think not too far back, we were talking about 3 hours of quick charging time. Then we came to 1 hour of quick charging time, and now we are also hearing about 20 minutes of quick charging times. So we are slowly getting there, where we will be able to replicate what IC vehicle are able to do. And at the same time, I think there's a lot of time it is mentioned in the market that India is a very cost sensitive market. I have a take on that, that India is not just cost sensitive, it's just a labeling on India that it's a cost sensitive market. It is a value sensitive market. If I am having X amount of money, just let's take an example of a two-wheeler, since we are at a two-wheeler forum. So if I am talking about a two-wheeler and an EV two-wheeler, if it is costing anything above 1 lakh, 1.2 lakh, which is the traditional range of current EV two-wheeler crop, what is the value that is offering to the customer? Parallelly, an IC vehicle might be giving such a value in that price range, which may not be right now being given by EV in certain aspects, but it is giving a better value than IC in other aspects, like the torque, the performance, the acceleration. But parallelly, it is not being able to give that much amount of range, maybe that much amount of variety in terms of platform options. So the customer is not skeptical about adopting EV. He's skeptical about getting the right value of that product. So onus is upon us, the OEMs, the supply chain partners. How do we create that value for the customer for the price point he's paying? And coming to the first query which you asked about the use cases that we have been looking forward to. So I think for this, I'll just start with an anecdote. When we were doing the product research in the market and we were showing the product, some sketches, some images, since the product was in more of a conceptualization stage at that time, I'm talking about 4 to 5 years back, the target customer, when he saw the product, the images, many of the customers themselves gave us the idea that, okay, what I can do out of it? I can use the two-wheeler, I can go for daily errands, my brother can use the three-wheeler, he can run his own business, my wife can use the two-wheeler. It's just that you have to give a canvas to the customer. The use cases he will create for you. Right now, I think Surge S32 is the Apple moment of mobility industry, where you have to give that technology in the hand of the customer when he realizes that what all can be done from a single vehicle. I have heard the word modularity a lot of times today. Whenever we talk about modularity, you can say the future of mobility, where we have to optimize our mobility industry and reduce the pollution, we have to replace the fossil fuels. We immediately start thinking about the modularity of the platforms, the modularity of, you can say, the battery packs and all those things. Why are not we talking about the modularity of the vehicle form factor? That's the basic idea behind this product, that the modularity should be translated even to the form factors to optimize the complete mobility industry. So those are my takes on your queries.
Thank you very much for answering both of those in a lot of detail, especially the first one where you talked about, there's that learning curve and how, value conscious consumer will start to see the benefits come in. And I think on the second one, very importantly, I think it's a good anecdote you share that it's, S32 is the Apple moment for the electrified three-wheeler and two-wheeler combination. And let's see how that moves from there, and also hinging on the modularity concept. Thank you. Moving on to you, Arjun, we've seen that you've focused on developing specialized vehicles for targeting small business owners and last mile delivery operators. We also understand that for this segment, especially the small business owners, affordability is a key challenge. Right, and that brings me to another very key aspect of electrification, which is around the financing, leasing, battery as a service. How do you see out of these, the various alternatives that are there, and which out of these do you see becoming most effective as far as this segment of the customers is concerned, based on your experience?
Thanks for the question. Hi, good morning, everybody, and thank you to TWF for having me here. So we have been doing this, we have been catering to this industry since 2016 under the brand name The Bung. and we have been successfully able to target the mindset of the electric three-wheeler user in terms of e-rickshaws, right? And post-COVID, if you see the graph of how the electric rickshaws, especially e-rickshaws, how the graph has improved and the demand for the e-rickshaws have improved. Nobody expected this boom. So the main credit goes to a lot of people behind their different industries which are related to the core industry, which is EV. The major part also plays a charging network. Earlier, when in 2019, when we used to make one e-rickshaw, I clearly remember at that time there were hardly any good battery manufacturers with good charging and service backup. And at that time, we were just getting 100 Ah of battery or 110 Ah of battery, right? But now, if you see, now we are using 150, 160 Ah of lead acid battery. And same applies to the motor capacity as well. At that time, we were using a 900 watt motor or 1000 watt motor, and now we are using 1500, 1200, 1800, 2000 watt as well. So, if you see, every angle of the EV industry has grown, and when it comes to the charging aspect, for lithium-based products, the charging network have improved tremendously in the urban areas because of the fleet operations coming into existence and all these logistic mobility company who have come and given a new shape to the delivery in terms of electrifying all their delivery vehicles into electric segment. The charging network has played a very important role in that. But if we talk about the semi-urban areas or the rural areas, we are yet to reach there. So the problem which I see in the coming future is that how do we create a charging network in the rural areas, because for the passenger segment which we majorly deal in, in tier 2, tier 3 cities, right now the charging infrastructure is not available fully. So I think the best, for the longest term, the best would be to having a good battery pack along with the good financing options and at a very affordable price. Like Uday mentioned over here that bringing auto which will run up to 300 kilometers, and that is, I think, more than enough for us, for any of the auto drivers. And I think that would be definitely a game changer if the cost is controlled, and that can be only controlled if we can make the ease of the purchase of the electric autos through financing options. For example, if my auto, which we have recently introduced, India is one of the first 7+1 approved electric autos in L5 categories. What we are targeting is that we need a very big support from the financiers over here, right? So if the auto is if the on-road price for the auto is coming about to 4.2 lakhs, so the average down payment what we are expecting is 50,000 from a end consumer, correct? So 50,000 and the rest, which is about 3.7 lakhs, that needs to be supported from the financiers. In the last few years, a lot of new NBFCs have come on boarded. A lot of OEMs like ourselves, like Bike Bazaar, Paisalo, Shriram Finance, and XYZ, who have helped to make the purchase of these vehicles very easy. So in my terms, in what I think that for passenger segment, for pan-India level, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, I think for the longest time, the huge battery pack with good financing options and at an affordable price, I think that would be the sustainable model for any OEMs like ourselves and like all the people along with me sitting on this panel. And because the rest charging or battery as a service would take a lot of time in the pan-India level. For urban, battery as a service is definitely a successful hit. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you,
Thank you,
Arjun,
thank you, thank you,
for
sir.
your insights on that topic. Thank you very much. Moving on across to you, Mr. Pankaj Sharma. We see Kinetic Green has had a lot of focus around battery swapping, and we've also seen, taking a lead in terms of fleet electrification, which is particularly a very big trend these days in, last mile delivery and things like that. I wanted to ask you two questions around this. One is, how do you think India's policy framework could further, accelerate the electrification of the fleets, given the fact that, the last mile delivery requirements, as well as the gig workers and all that is on the rise? And on the other hand, also, do you think battery swapping would be the way to go for this segment of the market? So your views on that, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you, TWF team, for hosting this, and thank you, panels. So I think at Kinetic Green, first of all, our vision is providing mobility for masses. We have two-wheelers and we also have three-wheelers. So in case of two-wheelers, we have one great new product, which is E-Luna. It's a platform, and our target is across India, mostly in urban and not much of urban, but semi-urban rural markets. And because we feel this space is where nobody is present as of now. Second, there is a lot of demand, because still in India there are more than 75-80 crore people which does not have even two-wheeler, while it is the two-wheelers largest market in the world. These people are using all bus, road, and maybe walk, right? So we think this is a huge opportunity for us. And this particular product not only moves them from place A to B, but it also moves their stuff. For example, their daily business user, they also use this for their personal mobility and for their businesses. And in last 2 years when we have started, it's really doing well. It also has a huge opportunity in case of e-commerce segment, which you ask. Because we see in most of the urban markets, this segment is growing, and they have only two requirements basically. One, of course, the little longer range, practical range of 80 to 100 kilometers. And second, the product has to be fault-free, or let's say 100% quality conscious. And we serve both the needs. So we are seeing in most of the metro cities, there is a huge demand of this B2B business. Answering the second question, that what kind of government policies, I think the biggest challenge which as a two-wheeler industry which we see, while the central government is supporting in terms of PME drive, but most of the state governments have actually taken it back. They were earlier supporting with their local state subsidies. One, they have removed it. It's only RISA as of now which is giving. Second, some of the states have also started charging now registration taxes, which is very, very unfair to the industry. Of course, at our level, we are also approaching a few state governments to look into this. But the good news is that we are in, I think, one of the best industry in the best time. The penetration of electrification in overall two-wheeler industry and also three-wheeler is increasing. And we see more and more players coming in. Of course, there are, let's say, 1.5% those issues which people talk about mostly is the range anxiety and all those issues. But we are looking at 98-99% of people who wants to adopt electrification, whether for their business use or for their personal use. So whether it is in two-wheeler or three-wheeler, I think this industry has to go at a great height. And most of the companies, I'm sure, including the government, has a huge plan by 2030. At least this electrification of two-wheeler should be around 65-70%. We are maybe around 10% now. So we are very, very proud of what we are doing, and we are very confident that this industry is going to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for talking about the imperatives as well as, also on the policy front, what needs to be done for that. Moving across to you, Mr. Kelvin NG, Chogori Technology is a global leader, whether it's in terms of EV connectors, battery technology, power solutions, and you're working across different markets. But when it comes to the Indian market, I think it's very unique in terms of the requirements that this market has, both in terms of user conditions where vehicles are actually also getting abused to a large extent. What is some of the things that you've done in order to be able to meet the challenging demands of the vehicles in India? And I would also connect that to the question I put across to Uday at the start of this, that we still see a lot of things getting imported. How do you see, from your perspective, the localization of these things also happening in the country?
Right. Again, thanks to TWF, Ashim sir, and the panel. Each and every round that I always attend these events, I pay a lot of attention, and I learn a lot from the responses that came. Chogori, I think some of the people know about us, Chogori. We're a connector and cable assembly manufacturer. And then anyone in the room here, including those on stage, can anytime be my customer. So we basically feed our parts up the value chain to the charger manufacturers, battery manufacturers, all the way up to the vehicle assembler. So that's what we do. So if I go back, it's already a decade since we came into the EV space. And a lot of the company background is doing a lot of connector solutions originally intended for LED lighting. So we have a strong reputation in this area. Following this, I have a presentation. I'll share a little bit more. So, and from there, we extended into the EV market, and I spent already from about 2016 until now, the last 8-9 years, doing whatever I can for the India market over here. So a lot of the information that I saw from Ashim sir's presentation, including also modularization, interoperabilities, things like this. And I keep thinking a lot about, things that we develop over the years. It must make sure that they are easily scalable. In other words, I can have solutions that can go into fixed batteries. At the same time, they are scalable if the customers wants to use it for a swappable solution. Then progressively, we limit to a few different product categorization to make sure that we can support all the various needs of the market. Now, we learned a lot over the years in terms of the need for durability. We always tell the customers that the connector can fail, but not the battery, because the battery is a lot more expensive than the connector by nature. So we spend a lot of time to improve everything that we can possibly improve: high temperature conditions, and including also vibration, shock absorptions, things like this. Yeah, we do a lot of all these very rigorous tests in-house, and even ensuring that the connectors that go on the battery side must be meeting IP67. In other words, water doesn't go in. So I heard earlier with regards to waterproofing being one of the very big challenge that is faced. And we are also getting a lot of inputs recently in terms of higher voltages, higher currents, things like this, yeah? Exceeding more than 200 amperes that eventually needs to be considered on the longer term. So a lot of solutions as we move forward, we are thinking about things involving overload protections, some of this nature. So these are things that we have laid a lot of the foundation for the India market over here. And we continue to innovate new and possible solutions to support. The part regarding, I sort of foresee that there will be a lot of different challenges, and eventually it will happen to have more localization over here in India, either through some form of a JV, strategic alliances, partnerships. We are really getting enormous pressure as a connector design manufacturer. We're getting a lot of this. So currently we do have challenges to bring everything possible into this geography due to various reasons. So what we did was we worked with cable assembly partners to have a lot of those that can value add here in India, because cable is obviously a very heavy component of the entire connector that needs to connect to the battery, that needs to connect to the motor for discharge, things like this. So the cable portion all can be done here, number one. The second part is we are also getting more innovative in our product designs. Those that may have seen some of our solutions, our entire Type 6 charging gun can be fully assembled here in India. So these are things that we are working around. And once we have those possibilities to set up a real operation here, definitely we will do so. Currently, our next better option is in Thailand, in which we are shipping products from Thailand that enjoys FTA with India at the moment. And we are discussing a few things with various partners, potentially for some technology transfer in this region. So this may take place in the next 1 to 2 years. Okay? All right, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin, for talking both about the innovations for the Indian market and also how do you see that localization roadmap route. Finally, and very importantly, coming to you, Dr. Jaiswal, because before the customer touches the vehicle, you're the one who makes the rubber meet the road in your testing facilities. What, according to you, are some of the challenges that manufacturers are facing in testing and validation of the E2-wheelers and 3-wheelers, and how are you helping them overcome that through the extensive testing infrastructure that you have in the country?
Yeah, so thanks TVF, TWF, and thanks for having me here. So I was listening to all the speakers. So see, we are a test agency located at Indore, Pithampur. In electric vehicle category, we have started our operation in just 2 years' time. And in thanks to all the policy and conducive ecosystem and all the industry support, we have close to 100 manufacturers who are associated with us, whether it is 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, e-rickshaws or batteries. And a lot of them are pretty new in the game. So it means that they haven't got a rich legacy of product development. They are startups who may have started with just a couple of years back. So one of the challenges which we see often is their understanding of the testing as well as homologation process. Many of them are new. They often rely on people like say some third party to help them out in all of that. So we as an agency often reach out to them, give them the right training and other support to make sure that they understand how the entire stuff is going to get tested, so that they don't miss out on those things while designing, and the failure rates are less. So but e-rickshaw, 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler are generally less problematic in that way as compared to bigger vehicles for which the product development is still happening at a very limited state, and let's say it's not that democratized as compared to this segment. So in that way, even though our standardization has gone up, the challenges are not that heavy as compared to, let's say, heavy vehicles or 4-wheeler. So it is not so problematic, at least from a new player, to enter into this market and face huge trouble in getting product certified. I mean, we are just one out of 4 test agencies, other being ARI, ICAT and GAC. We don't see industries are facing that much challenge in certification. Yes, there could be challenges when it comes to the incentive policy, because government now has 2 distinct policy, one on the demand side, other one on the supply side. So there the challenges could be more in terms of qualification in order for somebody to get into PLI or, let's say, PME drive. There I see more reluctance and challenges because of various say factors, but in testing and certification there are less challenges, the way the ecosystem has evolved and adaptability of overall EV system is. So that would be my point. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jaiswal, for talking about that, and also I think you touched upon that important aspect of for the policy compatibility, wherein also we've seen the test agencies playing a greater role in certifying whether it's meeting those criteria or not. Just before I go across to there, I also had one more question. Do you see requirements for testing on ADAS also coming in for the E2-wheeler and the three-wheeler segment?
I would say it is not as prominent.
Okay.
Most of the development in ADAS we are seeing is for the four-wheeler category and limited way on, let's say, heavy commercial vehicles. But for two-wheeler and others, we don't see, even though we are having stability technologies playing a role, at least for two-wheeler, because stability and say accident rates is still very high in two-wheeler as compared to, they are what we often call as the vulnerable user, whether it is pedestrian or two-wheeler. So yes, safety technologies are coming in there, whether it is anti-lock braking system or little stability systems. But ADAS as per se is not that so prominently getting developed in those segments. Yes, there could be some features of it which we may see in future, and we are now started seeing a lot of testing which is happening, but the way our standardization or regulations are getting framed, they are also getting framed for four-wheeler or maybe heavy commercial vehicle in terms of, let's say, braking systems or lane change assist systems. But yes, the more, say, the way I see is there could be more intelligent transport system which may come into existence for even the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, whether it is SOS or other stuff, just to develop a little bit of intelligence in the infrastructure rather than expecting driver assist system coming in a big way for two-wheeler, three-wheeler. So,
sure. Sure, thank you, Dr. Jaiswal. And that brings me to this question to you there. When we talk about sustainable mobility, I think one is sustainability in terms of the environment, second is also in terms of road safety, right? And third is also about sustainability in terms of the whole manufacturing process, etc., right? So what are your views, especially because you also catering to markets outside of India in terms of, see, ADAS systems or things like that coming into three-wheelers and two-wheelers on the one hand, and second, in your entire manufacturing and extended value chain, which also goes to suppliers, etc., how are you looking at this overall aspect of sustainability?
First of all, I'll say one thing, Doctor, that you said, absolutely. This is something I tell all the time. There is no barriers of entry in this business, but I'll tell you, there are very few exits. So if you get in this business, I recommend all of you to make sure you understand the exit, because I've seen enough entries in here, and I'm finding very little doors open for exits out here. So please, when Hero is here or Kinetic is here, these guys have been here for a long time. They just didn't come yesterday. So, a lot of players have just come in and, selling, it's not about selling 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 vehicles. It's selling, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of vehicles. Then only are you going to make money. So just I find that entry, just because a barrier of entry is easy, please, I recommend everybody, please make sure you know your exit. Otherwise, you're going to lose your shirt. I think that's very, very prevalent and the need of the hour right now. What I was going to say is sustainability. The most important part of sustainability is, are you actually going to make money? All right? I mean, to be honest, all of this looks great. And I was a hedge fund manager for a long time in the US and Europe, and all of this picture of I'll make money in 2038. I think you want to have a sustainability. You want to build a sustainable business, but you also actually want to be able to make money. Negative EBITDA and PATs can only take you, and I think the market's teaching everybody a good lesson in the last couple of months on that. Sustainable business is extremely important. I think whether it's sustainability in manufacturing, whether it's sustainability with your suppliers, sustainability in your process, I think it's extremely important. I think some of the questions that always come up to all of us is that, when we talk about, you're putting up the charging infra, and the charging infra is pulling the power from the brown grid, how are you actually helping the system? So I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done. I really don't think, again, from my experience and, Heroes here and, I know Ferrodi is from the Kinetic Green. I mean, they've been here for a long time. I don't think you can depend on the government too much. I honestly think this, what can the government do for you? I don't think we want to have that policy. I think what can we do for the government? I think that's more probably relevant. The government's done enough what it wants to do in terms of PLI and the PMI policy. I think every one of you should be building a business without any subsidy. Then only are you going to be building a sustainable business. But coming back to suppliers, I think you've got to make sure that we've got to spend enough time with tier 1, 2, 3 suppliers, that they're actually having green supply chain. What are their power sources? What are they doing with recycling? What are they doing with battery recycling? This is a very, very important process. The problem sometimes, and I'm always going to come down to reality, I'm a man on the front lines, always, is, we're always under the pressure of pricing, right? I mean, I absolutely love the idea of a 3 and a 2-wheeler today, and I definitely want to see how that plays out in scale. The real problem comes always out here is that, yes, people want to pay for quality. That's important. But also in the 2 and the 3-wheeler, if you're talking about the commercial or the passenger, value is going to come in. So I think when you go out of sustainability, you're always going to fight this challenge of pricing. I've spent enough time in, I've got a long history with the Kingdom of Thailand. I spent over 10 years over there, maybe more, and I think, if you look at Thailand or if you look at Vietnam or you look at Cambodia, their pricing is a little bit more freer. Their customers are a little bit more freer than what we have here. Logistic players in this country don't want to pay. So I think this is a very complex mathematics. This will come with scale. I keep coming back to this. Unless we have scale, unless we have a nationwide sort of, and it cannot just be, honestly, guys, it just cannot be Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai. It has to be rural Karnataka. It has to be rural Tamil Nadu. It has to be, Heroes in every part of the country, Connectivity sending over these years. You look at your network, right? Anywhere, you've probably got more stuff than Coca-Cola out there. So my point right now is sustainability is important, but sustainable business is also important. And how do you get to sustainable business? Is you work as, I keep saying, this is a marathon, not a sprint, guys. Whether you believe me or not, 5 years later, you're going to still hear this. And I'll tell you, a lot of players on this table are probably going to be there, and some of them are not going to be here. Because if you look 7 years ago, I saw a lot of players, and they're gone. The clear part of this is sustainability of a product is important, but sustainability of your business is extremely more important. So make sure this is again something that will take time. You've got to work in partnerships, whether it's local, whether it's global. I'm working in the Middle East right now. You'll hear in a couple of months. We're setting up stuff for Africa. We build products for Africa where we can compete. Yes, we can compete with the Chinese on the pricing in 2 and 3-wheelers. I think the 4-wheelers will take time. I think what Mahindra has done on 4-wheelers here is very, very commendable. The products are world class and they're building it in a cost. So I think building an alliance, whether it's on batteries, powertrains, more, working on sustainable business is extremely important. And again, I think what I love to see is young men here who are willing to take a chance and build products. And my only recommendation to you be, pick a city, make it your friend, work in that city. Don't go national, because if you make it work in one city, you get that brand name, you get that sustainability, I think you'll be able to do this. Trying to do nationally, I've seen so many tires blow out in this race. I'm in car racing. So I think sustainability of business is even more important than sustainable. Because if you're just here for 6 months or a year or 2 and you blow out, it makes nothing. It actually hurts the environment, right? Because customers that have those vehicles and they don't get service, then it creates a worse backlash, right? So I think, but again, I think a lot of work has been done. I'm very excited to see the number of green plates across this country. Sustainability with our suppliers, working on solar, working on recycling, working on battery recycling is extremely important. Again, work together. Let's make, let Trump's son do what he's doing with making America great again. I think we've already had India great. Let's keep making India great again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, you've picked a very key point, and I think I would put it sustainability versus sustenance. If you can't sustain your business, yeah, sustainability will come next. And I think that's a key thread, and let me move that across to the other panelists as well, starting with you, Siddharth. We've also seen many EV startups struggle with capital constraints, right? And that may be on account of various factors. Some places money got burned, some places some have got crowded out because, there are one or two who've taken away all the funds. What do you think can happen, which could at least enable the promising startups to keep getting these funds, which will be very essential in the initial stages of growth?
It's an interesting question, like the automobile industry in general, it's a very capital intensive business, and like I have been in this for 1.5 years and I've seen so many companies struggle with capital. And I think financial institutions and government plays a critical role in this. One thing like government can do right now, and it's already doing, is incentivize the startups, like they're giving subsidies. Another benefit could be if they give tax benefits on the components, on the final products, then it can lower the cost and increase adoption. And I've also seen like private finance institutions these days becoming a bit skeptical of startups, which is very sad to see. It's understandable because they have had bad experiences. Like Uday was saying, like there are so many companies that came in because there is no barrier to entry, but then they just shut down, didn't do well, and the vehicles are on the road, nobody's there to service them. And the financial institutions that supported these companies, they are having a loss. So it's understandable that they are a little skeptical right now. But I think like with time, it's important that all of these institutes like have increased their technical ability, to understand the right, to identify the right technology, the right product to back, the right business to back. And that I think would be very useful in the long run, because otherwise, like things will come to a standstill without them participating as aggressively as they have been up until now. Even Nitin Gadkari was recently talking about introducing a rating system in the L3 category, which I think would make a lot of sense, because there are so many brands in e-rickshaw category that even like consumers and investors both are confused as to what's the difference between these products. So rating can help create transparency as to what the product is. Another thing, like because of the low barriers to entry, there are a lot of startups coming in, and there are a lot of new ideas that's floating around. Like for example, Hero is working on this two-wheeler, three-wheeler combination. We at Greenway, we are also working on a new concept of bike with 3 wheels. It sounds strange, but we see a lot of potential for that product in the e-commerce segment, because the quick commerce these days the orders are becoming larger and the deliveries are becoming quicker. So we need a vehicle which can carry more than a bike, which is equally stable or even more stable and can carry a ton of stuff. And that's why we are designing this product, which is different from what we traditionally see. And I'm very confident that there are hundreds of startups out there in India right now trying to come up with something new, something more creative, something bold. And any of those products could be the next iPhone or the iPad. And for that to happen, financial institutions play a very critical role. They are the enablers of a good idea. And we need their trust and their faith in the EV ecosystem, especially right now, more than ever.
Yeah, so they're probably looking at it more carefully, is what you're saying, to be able to identify which are the promising ones. on the same theme, going across to you, Rajat, we also see that for the logistics companies, and been working in that for over the years, we've seen like telematics and all that was really low in terms of adoption. But, all that changes when it comes to electrification because anyway in a cloud interconnected network. So how do you see that as, pacing up for the transportation companies when they are using vehicles for last mile delivery, for example, 2 and 3 wheelers? And also, do you see, some new battery technologies, etc., also coming in, which could really start flipping this balance in the favor of also economics in a larger way for these companies in the future, which essentially goes towards making their operations more green and also sustenance of their operations becoming better from a cost standpoint?
Asim, your query reminds me of one of the very interesting business cases of the past in the West. I'll just not mention the name of the company, but there was an organization that used to make detergents and used to sell peppermint free with that detergent. And peppermint chewing gums used to be very, you can say, prominent at that time. It also used to be a kind of a style statement at that time. And suddenly the market from purchasing that detergent was moving towards just purchasing it for the sake of that peppermint because it was free with that, right? And eventually that company shifted its complete business model to the peppermint production. You can check it on the internet about the case study. So why I brought it up here, because currently IoT, the telematics and all the connected features are similar in a similar situation right now. They are coming as an add-on with the vehicle, which are enhancing the consumer experience. A vehicle is fundamentally meant to go from point A to point B, but how you can enhance the customer experience. Plus you talked about the fleet who are basically owning those vehicles on a large scale. For them, the optimization of their operations becomes the key, which is basically a lot fed by these information which is generated by the telematics units. So definitely I think as I said, it's maybe the peppermint movement that you are basically taking a decision of purchase on basis of these small pieces. Your purchase decision is getting influenced by that. If I'm buying a two-wheeler today, I am looking into whether my mobile will get connected with that or not. Though I'll be using it on a very less scale as a personal user, maybe since I am not a fleet user, but still, I am trying to adapt to that kind of feature, and I like to have Google Maps or any other maps integrated on my screen so that I have a better, you can say, navigation system with my vehicle. So all these add-ons are basically now enhancing the customer experience and actually changing your purchase decision. So definitely there's a very bright future if you talk about the connectivity in the vehicles. And as a person who is a commercial fleet owner, for him definitely he has to optimize his operations. He has to bring the economies of scale into his business, and he has to make sure there is no downtime in the vehicle, which is I think the biggest plus point of Surge S32. You do not have the downtime of the vehicle. At the time the person is using the three-wheeler module, the two-wheeler batteries can be kept on the charge, and vice versa. So not only the software modularity, the vehicle modularity, the platform modularity, the chassis modularity, everything is basically going to contribute into making the value for the customer. As Uday rightly mentioned, you also have to earn money both as a customer and both as an OEM. So both can only earn when there is a value in the product. They should get a value out of the product I'm selling to him, and I should get a value out of what I'm offering. So I think the connectivity part and the vehicle manufacturing goes hand in hand from now on. There is no looking back. This is definitely going to get more, you can say, more smooth, more intriguing with time. And to your second query regarding the battery technology that will affect the EV industry, I think what whatever fuels a vehicle, the energy density is the biggest role, energy density is the biggest point which plays a role in deciding what kind of technology is going to progress from here. The energy density, definitely fossil fuel sitting on the top of the list, followed by, I think, the hydrogen batteries, the solid state batteries, then the lithium ion batteries. So currently the lithium ion batteries are sitting at somewhere around 0.01 times of fossil fuel energy density, and solid state batteries being a bit better, and furthermore as we go up the chain. So I think there will be a lot of eyes upon the entrepreneurs like us, maybe many others who are working into the sustainable energy and into the new battery technologies, that how they come up with new solutions which are more energy dense and more sustainable. And yeah, that's how I perceive the future of refueling and energy.
Thank you, Rajat. On the same theme, and the questions first to you, Arjun, and I'll request you, Mr. Pankaj Sharma, also then to respond to that. So we've seen this debate between swapping and fixed charging, and which also plays a key role in terms of sustainability of the operator that's buying these vehicles and operating these vehicles. You know, do you believe one of these is more viable for commercial operations? For your case, Arjun, for three-wheelers, and Pankaj, in your case, for two-wheelers, how do you put that?
So, like I mentioned before, that the battery swapping would be a hit and is a hit when it comes to fleet operations and all the deliveries related activities, whether it's in two-wheelers or three-wheelers, right? How the mobility like Magenta, Zip Electric have entered and adopted electric wheelers, purchased few from my friends sitting on the panel as well. So swapping battery and a charging infrastructure is a very good combination for the commercial aspect. But if we talk about the passenger segment, which is, I think, one of the biggest aspects of EV industry, and in three-wheelers, it is, I don't think that it's a pure hit. Everything, the longer game is basically, like I mentioned before again, that huge battery pack with reliable chases, financial options there, and making the product very very sustainable for the end consumer. Because the charging infrastructure in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 will take a lot of time, which the way everything is progressing. And in tier 1 cities like Delhi NCR, Mumbai, Bangalore, the charging infrastructure has already been installed, and swappable battery has also played a vital role in terms of two-wheelers and three-wheelers. And even the charging infra, like the 15-minute fast charging or the 5-minute fast charging, upcoming 5-minute fast charging. So I think everything is working at this moment in terms of urban, to be honest.
Okay.
And when it comes to the rural part, then the passenger segment, I think it's a traditional way which will go on forever.
Mr. Sharma, your views?
So I think it's purely based on the customer need. So the Kinetic Green, as OEM, we provide both the options. Of course, in case of personal commuter, nobody prefers outside charging for two-wheeler. They actually wants to charge at their own house, at their own convenience. It's very cheap. In case of B2B business or fleet, what they need is the range, roughly around 80 to 100 kilometers. So as a OEM, we have 100 kilometer, 125 kilometer, 150 and even 200 kilometer, depend on the battery size. So we provide that option. But in the third category, which is the swapping one, we are also there, but our dependence on the other ecosystem goes very high. The quality of the product differs because then the batteries are changing on the same vehicle. So of course, depend on the customer, we provide, but we don't encourage honestly. We prefer to give them a large range, the longer range, and that's what I would say customers are preferring as of now. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Final word to you, Dr. Jaiswal, on the fact that testing agencies need to be a step ahead in terms of developing the testing infrastructure. Only then will we be able to localize some of the technologies here. So over the next 5 years, which all areas do you think, we'll need to develop the testing infrastructure with regard to E2-wheelers and 3-wheelers so as to be able to indigenize some of those technologies?
Yeah, so just for your information, I think this is well known now in the industry that the ministry is promoting the test agencies to upgrade themselves. So that plan is anyway in place. So there is going to be huge capacity build up when it comes to test agency infrastructure development, and that will happen purely on EV segment. So that is my projection that close to 500, 600, 100 CR is going to get invested on EV testing infrastructure development across the agencies, and we are also in process of developing not only for 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, but all the way for electric trucks as well. So you will need more EMI, EMC chambers, more say charger certification facility, motor certification, motor durability, thermal chambers where the motor durability can be done. So all this is in a plan in place. So hopefully in next 2 years there is going to be a lot of new capacity which is going to get built in various test agencies. So that is a clear plan which we have laid.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jaiswal. We're almost out of time, but in case there is any question from the audience, we're happy to take that. If you could please introduce yourself and also tell whom the question is directed to. Yes, please.
Yeah, hello. Myself Nitesh Akhori. I work with Hyundai Corporation. I am very thankful for this enlightening information which has been shared by all the panelists. As a customer, I was thinking what we are doing in terms of creating an ecosystem for after sales of the EV, and also any emergency protocols in terms of fire breaks in the batteries. Whether these issues have been taken care or how it is evolving, that I wanted to understand.
So, anyone in the panel? Anyone wants to take that?
Look, I think after-sales service is extremely important. I think you raise a very, very valid point. I think if we've learned a lesson, with what's happened, specifically, in the 2-wheelers, in the 3-wheeler market. I mean, the 4-wheeler market's just started. I think even in the 4-wheeler passenger market, when we first started to today, for me, the most important part of any organization, and that's why I was saying to some of the startups, if you go all over the place and you can't give, and I'll tell you what, you might build the perfect product, but our customers are very unperfect, right? I've seen, charging down in Bihar from the power line, they're stealing, I mean, this is so much that, in chargers, in the water, all of that. So I think two things are important. After-sales service is extremely important, having a network nationally or whatever areas you operate about, making sure also, not just after-sales service, but customer, you have to basically, bring knowledge to the customers. How do we use it? Also, in an ICE vehicle, you've got every 30, 40, minutes, you've got somebody who can fix them. You bring a high technology vehicle and you take them to rural UP, nobody knows how to fix that, right? And if you and then there should be enough parts. So after sales service, customer education, this is a combination, but I tell you what, I think it'll make, if any of us in the startup world, the big boys and girls, they know after sales service, they've been there. I think for all of us, the lesson, even for me, is after so many years, make sure you're after sales service, make sure you're front face, the dealers, all of this. A lot of work needs to be done. This requires a lot of capital. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes years and years and years. And keeping hold of good service engineers, it's so hard. Man, we need more and more technical skills people on the ground. Everybody wants to be a rocket scientist, but I think we need some service engineers down there to make sure they do this. So yes, this is extremely important. You raise a very, very valid point. And I think for success of all organizations, old and new, because in EVs, a lot of people are starting, even the older guys are starting in the new space, in an even playing field. This is extremely important, and I think I second your question very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to add anything to that? I think that's it. All right, with that, I think we're out of time. So thank you very much for sharing your pearls of wisdom. I think those are the pixels that will make the electrification picture a beautiful one for India. So thank you all for your insights, and thank you all also for being a very patient audience. Thank you.